Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Caris May, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Laura Gale. We are honoured to acknowledge representatives from the ACT Naval Association who are joining us this evening. We also welcome the German Defence Force Centre of Military History and Social Sciences delegation and the German Defence Attaché to Australia. We warmly welcome all the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. All the schools are from Victoria. We welcome Ivanhoe Girls Grammar School, Primary Department, St Leonard's College in Brighton East, and Yakandanda Primary School. To commence this evening's ceremony, I ask you all stand and join in singing the national anthem. Thank you, boys and girls. You may now be seated. The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember able seaman Alan Walter Lade and those of HMAS Australia II who were killed in January 1945 while fighting to liberate the Philippines from Japanese occupation. Alan Lade was born on the 5th of October 1924 in Scottsdale in northeast Tasmania. The son of Francis and Sylvia Lade, Francis Lade was a farmer and was serving part-time as a trooper in the militia's 22nd Light Horse Regiment at the time of Alan's birth. Following the outbreak of war in the Pacific in May 1942, Francis was called up for the militia. 5 months later, a week after his 18th birthday, Alan Lade enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy. He was 5'3" 1/4 inches, tall with black hair, brown eyes and a clear complexion. In early November 1942, Lade was sent as an ordinary seaman to the Navy's training establishment, HMAS Cerberus, on Western Port Bay. In February the following year, he was posted to the patrol craft HMAS Yandra, conducting anti-submarine patrols and escort duties along Australia's eastern coast and as far north as New Guinea. In August 1943, Lade was posted to the sloop HMAS Warrego II, which was then undergoing a refit. On the 14th of October, he was rated acting able seaman as the sloop resumed escort duties between Australia and New Guinea. In March 1944, Lade was posted to the RAN's anti-submarine school, HMAS Rushcutter, at Rushcutter Bay in Sydney to attend a radar course. He ultimately failed the course, and towards the end of May, he returned to Yandra before being posted to the heavy cruiser HMAS Australia II on the 2nd of June. The Australia, along with the heavy cruiser HMAS Shropshire, several destroyers and other vessels, formed the Australian squadron that was operating closely with the United States Navy as the Joint Australian-American Task Force 74. The task force had earlier supported the American amphibious push through the Netherlands East Indies. By mid-1944, the Allies were preparing to return to the Philippines. On the 20th of October, American forces amphibious landed on the island Leyte in Philippines. The next major phase in the campaign was the invasion of Luzon in the Lingian Gulf, which began on the 9th of January 1945. The Japanese fiercely opposed every phase of MacArthur's offensive at sea, in the air and on land. During the Battle of Leyte Gulf, Australia was hit by a Japanese suicide aircraft on the 21st of October 1944, which killed 30 officers and ratings. In January 1945, during the Battle of Lingian Gulf, Australia was again in the thick of the action. The heavy cruiser was hit 5 times over 5 days and another 44 men killed. On the 6th of January, able seaman Lade was acting as a scratch gun crew for a 4-inch gun, replacing men who had been killed or wounded in an attack a day earlier. His gun was in action when about 5:45 p.m, a Japanese Val dive bomber crashed between the 4-inch gun mounts on the starboard side and exploded in a fireball. 14 men were killed, including able seaman Lade. He was 20 years old. Writing to Sylvia Lade 3 weeks after Alan Lade's death, Captain John Armstrong, Australia's captain, tried to offer some solace for the loss of her son. How young he must seem to have taken on a man's responsibilities. He gave his life for his country and for the freedom of the world, and no man can do more. Alan Lade's service medals are currently on display in the Memorial's Second World War galleries. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember able seaman Alan Walter Lade, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Could you all please stand for the ode and last post?
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head, a rusting hulk is their tombstone, afast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of Memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We would like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.